Hello again, many thanks for joining us. My name is Ernest Mino. Now, the 36.5 million Komenda sugar factory is idle after 5 years of commissioning. This dims Ghana's dream to produce sugar locally and reduce the importation of sugar internationally. Now, figures from 2016 show Ghana spent $200 million to produce sugar annually. The unpleasant news is that the factory is rusting away. Machines are badly corroded and the roofs are badly torn. The factory, which is just 5 years old, looks almost 20 years. Jojo Kobna visited the Komenda sugar factory and reports the people are appealing to government to operationalize the factory.
This is the factory that is supposed to be producing sugar for the country, but it has been idle for 5 years. The roof is rusty and worn out. Before we get into the details of the current state of the factory, let's trace how Ghana found itself in this situation. It may sound basic, but Ghana had a dream to start producing sugar locally. Hence the rebirth of the Komenda sugar factory. The old factory, built in 1964, became defunct about 30 years ago. A loan of $36.5 million was invested into the factory. Resuming operations at the factory was a perfect opportunity to do things right this time around and cut down on Ghana's importation of sugar.
So as I speak, every single cube of sugar, every single grain of sugar that we eat here in Ghana is imported from outside. Komenda is going to change that. It is my honor and my pleasure to declare the Komenda Sugar Factory duly inaugurated.
Excitement created the commissioning of the sugar factory in 2016.
The inauguration of the Komenda Sugar Factory will provide jobs. It is estimated that in full production, this project will provide direct and indirect jobs to an estimated 7,300 people.
Unfortunately, the facility shut down in July 2016 because of inadequate sugarcane. It was due to reopen in October 2016, but never did to date. Since then, there has been a flurry of promises to get the factory running.
Because summer kasisia here, into so kasisia here, Emma factory to me the amount of land we need for the sugar, the type of sugar we can grow here, all those things were not properly organized. I think our organization, our organization, and also the between strategic investor and also it me about Bisomu.
But it took 2 years before the government announced a new investor for the sugar factory.
This factory, like any other factory, will keep on needing ongoing investment, ongoing retooling, and if that is done, definitely it will keep running and it will bounce back.
When are you starting work?
We are waiting for the final agreements to happen. After that, we'll start working.
It is past the second week of August, and the Komenda sugar factory remains closed. Currently, the facility is in terrible shape. A comparison of the factory in 2016 and 2021 shows the factory is deteriorating. There sits the Komenda sugar factory in its rusted glory. It has been abandoned for so many years. It is not producing sugar. And there are so many youth in the community needing jobs, and they have none. The plates and rakes that would carry the sugarcane for crushing have rusted. The new investor would have to spend more money to revive a new factory that was shut down just months after commissioning. A journey to the roof with a drone reveals further deterioration. Parts of the roof are rusted, worn out and torn. The roof is riddled with holes, and with the onset of the rains, it is obvious the rains seep into the factory. A group calling itself Concerned Citizens of Komenda is upset. Their convener, Samuel Awuja, is dismayed.
I quite remember about last 2 years,
The Trade Minister, Honorable Ahunkalin, said the traditional area should look for land. We've been able to do that. We've been able to secure about 3,500 acres of land, and that is even far beyond the expected 2,000. So as for the land we already have, it's now left to the government to come and operationalize. So anybody who talks about sugarcane and land issue, it's a non-starter. They shouldn't even go there, because we have land available, and then the sugar plantation was also done. You know, it takes 6 months for the sugarcane to be ripe for the factory. When the government came in, it's been 5 years.
The land reserved for the cultivation of sugarcane around the factory has been left fallow, and along the beaches of Komenda are people yearning to be employed once the factory is reopened. Joseph Shen is unemployed. His friends, who could not stand the pressures of unemployment, have migrated to Accra and other parts of the country, hoping to get non-existent jobs. Sharing their disillusionment and absolute displeasure, the residents pleaded with the president to fulfill his promises.
What time no kwisi na sisi we yedwuma sugar factory or musu pa dey taxpayers money and abenu akwohwe bo se we baby no da ba the madis wo won wie na aben fofo abada no so watu na adwumo dem akona abenda da obo no watu na adwumo ho na adni suwa na adni rust aben wadi ehwemo bebre agofo adu na aben wadi ehwemo bebre alba bet na the promise akohwe promise ngotin Albert na the promise I could shoot until I could find what you remember, especially commander for what you remember. As the commander sugar factory about to that man. I bear no what Jim one cast on crowdy. This I didn't one day say Aben Biba. Never I did this one more yeah. Aben for bar. I don't continue. You know what you had no wasteful. This is a Ghana Damano Wabadama. Yadity. A Kawana, this is a Ghana. This is Ghana. Busi Akwaboah and Afriyie. Ni yada be Muntujuma. Ye ma before Abama. No swam was sword. The me I listen. Oh, ye wankasa. On my fix your sugar factory man. Nay rose.
Now we are doubting them so much, and we don't believe them. The fact is that for a first term of office 4 years and a second term of office, all this was strategic investor. It has been given to strategic investor. At least, of course, we are young guys here, and such promises have been coming and gone, and we are not seeing anything. So for now, we don't trust them.
Sugarcane farmers are also disappointed. The secretary of the Sugarcane Farmers Association, Akwaboah, says his members are now frustrated because they have to give all the harvested sugarcane to Akwaboah distillers at heavily discounted prices. This is because the supply of sugarcane is more than the current demand.
One answer no water. One answer one dozen. Maybe no water, so water on credit basis. Until my pharmacy is covered there. Also, we need and say, Oma marketing your correct is Wutu, I shouldn't do. Says, I know ye pa, yes, indeed, or I know is that, it's yo. Or your name is in there. It may be I need Kia. Na Aduma, Ujuma, what day you may be see. I can't expect it, Uncle Government to obey Obotumo Abwa, my fighting farmer, fighting wood to wait the my farmers and so you to me.
They have more raw materials than ever anticipated, so they do not pay the farmers on time. Revival of the Komenda sugar factory would not affect them in any way. This is because they can always get the molasses from the factory to distill Akwaboah. No crushing of sugarcane, thereby reducing their burden. So even though Akwaboah distillers are benefiting from the abundant supply of sugarcane, they still want government to make the factory operational. The Member of Parliament for the Komenda Edna Egwafo-Ebrim constituency, Samuel Atta Mills, asked the Trade Minister in Parliament when the factory would be operationalized.
The Ministry of Trade and Industry, working in collaboration with its transaction advisor PricewaterhouseCoopers Ghana Limited, is in the process of concluding the conditions precedent for the activation of the concession agreement with a selected strategic partner, Park Agrotech Limited, to commence operations at the Commander Sugar Factory. Government has a right to terminate the agreement. But be that as it may, we are hoping that they will conclude and finalize the fulfillment of these conditions conditions precedent by August this year. And then once that is done, it paved the way for us to require the company to commence activation of the company before the end of the year.
Until the factory becomes functional, it will remain a museum of monumental wastage and failure. Jojo Kobna, Joy News.
Now, transaction advisors on the agreement to revamp the factory, that's PricewaterhouseCoopers, have been speaking about this development, and they have revealed that the main issue preventing the commencement of work on the project is how to get some tax incentive for the new investor. The senior partner at PwC, Vish Ahiadbo, explained that once that condition precedent is satisfied, the investors can move to site.
A major issue left, which is around the tax incentive framework that the strategic investor has requested. The request has been approved in principle. What we're trying to do now is to put a structure around it that is satisfactory to all parties. So that's really the last significant item remaining. Again, you know, when you're negotiating an agreement, it requires all parties who are at the table to reach that agreement, to cross all the T's and dot all the I's. A couple of years ago, that there were some components that were missing from the factory in order to make it complete from a processing point of view. So there will be a need to bring in some plant and machinery and other inputs to make the factory fully operational. The timelines are essentially out of my hands because the Minister has already directed that we work to close this transaction by the end of August. Again, that's public information. You heard him speak in Parliament. So that's the timeline we are working with.
From the Central Region, let me take you now to the Ashanti Region. The construction firm working on the KGTI redevelopment project in Kumasi is demanding the release of the remaining 20% land area for the construction of the market. Contractor Construction UK Limited wants city authorities to relocate traders on the land earmarked for demolition to give way for the construction. During a tour of the site, Deputy Minister of Local Government and Rural Development Collins Intim said government is committed to completing the market project on schedule, hence the need for the relocation.
Kumasi City authorities and manager of the construction firm contractor toured the project site for monitoring. They assessed the 20% land space to be demolished at the central market. The city mayor, Osei Entry, says he is yet to meet the Ashanti Regional Minister and other stakeholders for a possible relocation date.
Last has been the pattern for the first relocation, the second relocation. We will not deviate from the two because it has actually pave way for us to be able to relocate them. Before doing that, we always seek clearance with the regional minister, the RESEC and all the others. Then we bring out the date.
Deputy Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Collins Intim, expects an efficient drainage system to avert flooding after project completion. He wants the project to be completed 6 months ahead of time, hence the need to relocate immediately.
I am happy to note that the contractor himself, he was involved in the first phase. And then he was here when we had a little bit of the floodings and all that. He's taking cue of all that. He's done the analysis and all that. And that is informing his decision to get a bigger view of the area so that he'll be able to undertake the necessary geo studies and then do the proper engineering works to be able to come out with a better drainage system. The contractors we're supposed to complete by middle of November 2024, but we wish it could be done 6 months earlier. And they have given indication that barring all the challenges relating to evacuation and all that, if you're able to do that, then they'll be able to comply.
Consultant for contractor Emmanuel Danso says the engineers are working to avoid possible flooding in the future. He says for proper engineering works, traders need to be relocated from the remaining 20% land size.
The kind of measures the engineers, our technical team, the project directors that have put in place is laudable. I think we will not experience rain, but flooding. But we feel the additional 20% will help us to also to make sure to check all the drainage system that pass through the phase 2 in order for us to do proper drainage to protect flooding in future.
You're watching Journeys today with me, Ernest Mini. We're taking a short break. When we return, we'll bring you some more stories, including that of UTAG and a developing story in the eastern region on how dead bodies of COVID-19 patients are handled. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us here on Joy News today. Now, some environmental health officers in the eastern region are raising concerns about, and they're actually threatening to stop burial of COVID-19 cases. This is because they do not have vehicles to transport bodies, so they rely on tricycles. The acting environmental health officer for Denchemboa Yao, Akwaboah, says private health operators have refused to cut COVID-19 bodies.
2020 to this day, 14th August 2021, the Environmental Health and Sanitation Unit, that's the officers behind, have been able to bury 10 bodies. Today, we buried 8 already. Today, Saturday, we are burying 2, making 10. So we have been able to bury successfully 10 COVID-19 bodies. But the first 8 we suffered. Some of the my officers were not even wearing Wellington boots. They were walking barefooted. We have the videos here. We can give it to you. And because we were not having laborers, currently we are suggesting to government to recruit laborers for environmental health. Because in 1994, when we were transferred from the Ministry of Health, they only transferred the personnel, the environmental health officers like me sitting here, standing here. That's what they transferred. They left the laborers at the hospital. They left our budget at the hospital. They left our equipment at the hospital. Currently, if you come to my office, there isn't anything like a tool there. Sometimes when we are going for the pauper burial, that's the madman who dies on the street, well decomposed and co. That's when we improvise to manage or get the funds to buy tools for the office. But as to procurement of tools for the district assembly, no. We don't have a budget. We want government to also expand our scope. We have been a unit for long under the Ministry of Local Government, for that matter, the Local Government Service, under the MMDAs. We should have a department. Currently, as I speak, I am District Environmental Health Officer in the Chambers District Assembly. When I report to the DCE, the District Chief Executive, and then copy the region. That's the Regional Environmental Health Officer. Now, the Regional Environmental Health Officer is also to collect all the 33 MMDAs in Eastern Region and also write his report to the National Environmental Health Officer, of which we don't have. We don't have the National Environmental Health Officer. So the report from the region goes to the local government service, and there isn't any front desk officer who is environmental health officer to receive such report and technically advise the head of service, who is the head of the local government service on sanitation issues. That we environmental health officers take over from the Ministry of Health, Ghana Health Service, as burial team in the local government service, for that matter, the MMD, Metropolitan Municipal and District Assemblies. some of the challenges that we are facing are: one, we lack logistics. When I say logistics, I mean vehicle. I mean motorbikes, even computers, for us to be able to store data on this COVID has been a challenge. Some of us don't even have offices in our sub-district zones. We go there to the communities, engage the communities, and we come home. We come home just like that. This COVID, as you can see, and your comments can take, we use private health from St. Dominic's Hospital, which shouldn't be so, because the Public Health Act, Section 3, has mandated environmental health officers.
Let's get some more on this. Correspondent Kofi Siao joins us on the line with some more details. Kofi, help us understand. The tricycles they are using, are they privately owned or specially procured for these purposes?
Okay, so according to the district director for Denchembo, who is also the national president of the Environmental Officers Association, the tricycles are privately owned tricycles. They belong to individuals in society. These are not tricycles that were bought by government. So what they are saying is that due to the lack of these health services in the district assembly, the environmental officers are compelled or are forced to rely on these tricycles and mini trucks that belong to individuals in society. And usually when they are able to hire the services of these trucks or mini tricycles, what happens is that these operators refuse to allow their tricycles to be disinfected. That is what Mr. Akwalate is telling me. And their reason is that they want to take the money directly from them. And so when they go home, they can pour libation, perform some rituals and other things before they can clean their tricycles and use it for other purposes. But as to whether when they are giving these monies, when they go home, as to whether they're going to disinfect it or not, he cannot tell. And he thinks that this can pose some kind of health challenge to the public, because some of these tricycles are the same tricycles that when you go to the market, when you go to the villages, they are used to transport food items from one community to the other. So exposing the food stuff to this COVID-19 virus can be very dangerous to the human health.
Absolutely. But Kofi, help us understand on the part of the health operators, is it that we do not have enough of them in the system, or they are simply refusing to take up COVID-19 bodies? And why is that?
Well, what he says is that they have officers in the district, but they are not enough. Okay. One, he says that this environmental officers, the one he calls environmental officers, are supposed to be administrative staff. And the local government ministry is supposed to provide them with additional staff who work as laborers. That is what he says. But when you visit this district, they do not have the laborers. And he is saying that when the association or the environmental officers were transferred from the Ministry of Health to the Ministry of Local Government, they transferred only the human resource aspect from the Ministry of Health to the Ministry of Local Government, leaving the laborers and other, logistics that they would have needed to work with. So that is what he is saying, that if the government wants their work to be enhanced, what he says is that he should bring back the environmental health officers either to the Ministry of Health so that they can be well equipped and work in accordance with their work ethic.
In all of this, have we heard from the Regional Health Directorate? What have they been saying?
Well, I have been trying to reach the Regional Health Director, Dr. Winfred OWUSU, but he's not responding to any of his calls. So I'll still keep in touch with some or other officials at the Ghana Health Service in the region to find out exactly what they have to say about the issue.
Kofi, do we know what is happening at the end of this, which is the cemeteries? Are the operators there or the caretakers there, are they also complaining, raising issue with that?
Well, when there were no caretakers at the cemetery, what is happening is that they have a separate cemetery that they use to bury, when any member of the society, dies. But they have a separate one also located for the burial of COVID-19 people. And when there were no, people there who are manning the place, what is happening is that these environmental officers are the same officers who, when there is a burial of a COVID-19, corpse, they move to the cemeteries to conduct the burial.
Very well. Kofi, thank you very much for bringing us those details on this development in the Eastern region. Let's go to the other phone line. We are joined by a virologist with the KCCR, Dr. Michael OWUSU. Doc, this development certainly must be worrying. Tell us what the implications are.
Good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to all your viewers. So certainly, I mean, this must be worrying because within the context of public health and responding to pandemics of this nature, you wouldn't want this to happen. And this is why there are laid down protocols by the WHO and even by the Ghana Health Service in how to manage bodies that are of this kind, people who have died as a result of pandemics or epidemics. Although we understand that when it comes to COVID-19, the risk of infection from dead bodies is not that very probable. We are also in a crisis where neighboring countries are recording Marburg and Ebola, which is unforgivable. So if this system is not put in place, I mean, you can do this for COVID, and maybe you may go scot-free, but then you will not be forgiven if you carry a dead Marburg or Ebola body of this. You just trigger an outbreak that will cause massive epidemics across the country. So, I mean, when it comes to handling bodies, even for COVID, the protocol is that you should be able to use. We have body bags that these have to be kept in. There must be dedicated vehicles that have to package these bodies and transport it to the appropriate place for them to be buried. Even for those who do that, they must go through high standard protocol and precautions to ensure that even the vehicle that they use must be disinfected with an appropriate disinfectant. So you don't give room for any form of transmission to occur. But if this now is if other tricycles are involved with people who may not be experienced, might not have been trained, and may not have a better understanding of the public health systems, it could pose danger to themselves, but then this could also pose danger to the public. And because at the end of the day, they may also want to carry ordinary people in their tricycles, and you may never know. I mean, people may be infected, but as I said, for COVID, you may have a lead way out, but for Marburg and for Ebola, this is something that we really need to look at. And I will urge, the other units to report this to the Ghana Health Service so that they could look into this and support the environmental health officers so that they'll be able to do what is supposed to be done.
Given the constraints in the Eastern region with the lack of HERS operators, would you say that if the infection is done with the tricycles, because the operators of the tricycles are just refusing to have their vans, disinfected, if that is done, would that be safe enough? Would that reduce further the probability of infections?
No. I don't think in the first place we need to involve tricycles in transporting bodies of people who have died through any form of infectious disease. It's not a standard protocol. This is not what is done within the Ghana Health Service. There must be ambulances or other cars that are dedicated for this purpose, and this is what they are supposed to do. So the notion that tricycles will be involved and disinfected is something that is not enshrined within our own standard protocols and guidelines. So I think that this, as much as possible, should not be encouraged, and we should use the appropriate system to establish by the Ghana Ministry of Health, the Ghana Health Service, and the Environmental Health Officer. They know, they understand what is supposed to be done. And this is what I think must be encouraged. So left to me, the tricycle concept should not even happen in the first place. We should not allow this to happen so that you serve as another route for transmission of diseases that could pose danger to all of us.
Thank you very much. That's Dr. MICHEAL, OWUSU, virologist with the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research. And I must say that we have made attempts to speak to the Ghana Health Service. We do not have anyone readily available to speak to us. Once we do that, we'll bring you their reaction to this development. Away from COVID-19, striking university lecturers are expected to return to the lecture halls next Monday, bringing to an end a 3-week-old strike over their conditions of service. The University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, however, says the National Labour Commission will have to withdraw a pending court case against the association expected to be heard today. UTAG explains this is the understanding reached between the parties as part of a roadmap to resolve the stalemate. Speaking on the AM show, University of Ghana President of UTAG, Dr. Samuel Nkumban, said he is confident his colleagues, that's the colleague lecturers, will agree to the suspension of the strike so negotiations can resume.
Well, of course, we do have between today and tomorrow. So by close of day today, it should be possible to convene emergency meetings even via Zoom, or that in the course of day tomorrow, it should be possible for all campuses to have convened emergency meetings at which these issues are explained to membership and also their mandate sought to suspend the action. And of course, we believe that everybody appreciates the fact that unless we are on the negotiation table, we cannot get what we want. And so we can't also be on the negotiation table whilst the action is on. And so principally, it's just a matter of principle that this is what has to happen. It's a matter of consequence. And I think by close of today, by close of tomorrow, all campuses would be in the position to revert to the National Secretariat for a determination to be made.
Now, the students affected by the strike have welcomed the announcement by the lecturers to suspend the strike action, but they're calling for more time to study because they say they have not been able to concentrate on their books. Some of them have had to go home to attend to other issues, and so they are calling for some more time to be able to attend to their studies, and then they will be prepared enough for the examination. We've been speaking to some of them.
Tutorials for you. Some of the students have gone home. Some of you are still in school. Are you ready for the exams? Because the way the conversations are going, it's looking like there might be some light at the end of the tunnel. So where are your heads at in terms of getting ready for exams, picking yourselves back up, and just diving straight back into finishing up the semester?
Yeah, I think the readiness of students is there. Looking at the fact that students have been given about 2 weeks to prepare themselves, I think the readiness is there. But my point is, if the strike is going to be called off very soon and the school would have to, come up with a new examination timetable, I would only plead, or I'm actually pleading with the school's management to give students some 1 week. I understand that they've actually given them enough time to prepare themselves, but they should equally understand that the challenges to some extent made students, take the attention of academics. That is why early on I indicated that they were in a state of dilemma. it has its own psychological effects. There are some local students that I think they are supposed to move outside Ghana to pursue their academic activities. But of course, the strike has made them remain on campus. So to say that students are ready, that is actually true. But I'm actually looking at maybe at least a week for students to prepare themselves before we start the examination. So I think.
And of course, we've been making efforts to speak to the National Labour Commission on the outcome of today's court proceedings. We'll bring that to you in our subsequent bulletins. We also understand that the leadership of NUGS, that's the National Union of Ghana Students, is meeting the president over this issue and others. We'll bring you an update in our subsequent bulletins. This is Johnny Today with me and Asmin. We have business coming up. Please don't go.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Business. My name is Daryl Kwao. MTN Ghana has attributed its 25 years of success to prudent risks taken and business decisions that have facilitated outstanding growth. Now, speaking at a special edition of MTN Business Executive Breakfast Series, Chief Executive SELORM ADADEVOH said the telecom firm's success story has been hinged on the right leadership and policies. Here's more.
The Chief Executive of MTN Ghana said the belief spirit and right investment have been critical to the success story of the telecom business. According to him, despite running losses at the beginning of the business, it had the belief in achieving returns going forward as it continued investment in infrastructure and the people.
You can't run a business without taking certain risks. And your success has a lot to do with the risks that you were happy to take and how you executed on those risks. I mean, we've taken several risks. I remember when more recently, during discussions around the 4G license, from what I've understood, that if you look at how many devices supported 4G in the market, there was simply no business case for 4G. But we've seen what has happened since we actually bought the license and have expanded our services around 4G. The same with mobile money. For 6-7 years, it was not profitable. You heard Isaac talk about even the belief. But we stayed in, and despite a loss-making business, believe that one day this will be something different.
Meanwhile, the telecom market leader has reiterated its promise of deploying 4G technology to every part of the country by the end of next year. This is expected to enhance access and speed to internet connectivity while supporting the country's drive towards a digital economy. Here is SELORM ADADEVOH again.
At the end of 2019, every single site in the country had data, so 2G and 3G. By the end of 2022, every site in Ghana would have 4G. At the end of this year, would have Greater Accra with 4G on every site. So we are coming with faster internet.
Senior manager in charge of organizational development, Na Latioko Sena, recounted her early days at MTN Ghana, which has shaped her career.
For me, our company is not just about work, corporate stuff. We believe in our customers. We speak to their hearts. We just know what they want and try to deliver on it. But from an employee perspective, we cannot take out the fact that we invest in our people. There's a lot of employee empowerment programs that has evolved over the years and keeps evolving because our employees are the center of what we do and they matter to us. So we have lots of programs that support and have evolved over the years. So for me, this is a great milestone.
MTN Ghana increased its profit by 25.9% year-on-year to 868.2 million cedis in the first 6 months of this year. According to its 2021 audited half-year financial statement, revenue grew by 24.9% to 3.6 billion cedis in June this year.
Now, the insatiable demand for electronic devices is the world's fastest growing waste stream. Recycling e-waste has created jobs for professional recyclers. It has also created new markets for valuable components that are dismantled. A young Ghanaian engineer is adding value to electronic waste, protecting the environment and creating jobs. Lab FM's Mona Lisa Frimpong visited the EcoCent E-Waste Recycling Limited and filed this report.
A study by Lancaster University shows that worldwide we discard 44.7 million metric tons of electronics and electrical equipment. Now these contain materials that have higher value than 120 countries' GDP.
27-year-old Robert Nso is making a living from the recycling of electronic waste. He produces electric and electronic products using e-waste. Currently, a solar-powered power bank produced by Robert is in high demand on the market.
Electricity is common, it's everywhere, but not in some point. In my community, for example, we had people who had electricity, but some were not having. They couldn't afford, they were all relying on the government. So, well, I know I have to take a step.
Behind me are products recycled from waste. And for every 1,000 metric tons of waste discarded, we can generate hundreds of recycling jobs.
Robert has trained over 100 individuals since 2019. Many are self-employed, others are his apprentices.
But the fact that I know that I can also learn one or two things and make money from it was another thing. We all know the job situation in Ghana. Graduates will finish, no job. No job, how do you survive? But if you know a few of these, how to make some of these things, you can make money out of it.
I am in Form 2, Year 2. So I have come here to learn more and more, to get knowledge about many things in the world or to solve problems around my community or around Ghana.
Robert Nso has the goal of helping to reduce unemployment and promoting indigenous technology.
More business news at the top of the hour on the marketplace. Meantime, you can check out our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Sports is coming up next.
Time now for sports on Joy News today with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. We start with Electron Ghana's donation to the senior national team, the Black Stars, as they start preparations for the next edition of the African Cup of Nations. The Minister of Youth and Sports, Mustafa Usif, who received a check of $60,000 on behalf of government, said the country's commitment to winning the next edition of the African Cup of Nations is one thing they will have to call on corporate institutions to invest and ensure that the success of the national teams are achieved. There's more in the following report.
The kind gesture is the company's response to the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's call on corporate bodies to support the senior and other national teams for their upcoming international assignments. Minister of Youth and Sport, Honorable Mustafa Usif, who received the check, thanked Electroland NASCO for their kind gesture.
I want to thank NASCO, Electroland Ghana Limited, for responding to the President's current call to support our national teams, the football national teams, especially the Black Star, for the qualification of the World Cup come 2022 in Qatar, and also our participation in the AFCON in Cameroon. This is going to go a very long way to relieve burden from government, finances, especially in funding our national team preparation towards the qualification and participation in the AFCON. And if, inshallah, we qualify for World Cup, our participation in Qatar as well.
The minister also urged other corporate bodies to emulate the gesture, as government alone cannot take up the responsibility.
Let me also use the opportunity to urge other corporate institutions to support the national team, not only the Black Star, but entire national teams of Ghana.
Now let's talk about the Ghana Premier League. And marketing manager of the Ghana Football Association, Jamil Marabi, has revealed that the football governing body has valued its competition at $3 million, and that any corporate entity that wants to be headline sponsors of the Ghana Premier League must cough up $3 million.
Looking at it from far, I mean, when did we start the league? Sure. And how quickly do you think humanly possible it is for us to achieve and get the kind of millions of dollars we want? We just finished one league, okay? So we do have people who want to sponsor the league, but it's not to the amount that we want. So do you think that we can accept $100,000
for the season?
Thank you very much. We can't. We can't accept 200. We can't accept 300. We can't accept 500. If we accept 500, okay, so then we need about 3, 4, or 5 sponsors together, bring in 500. Then we can run the Premier League. But we can't just take one sponsor giving us 500,000 or 300,000 or 200,000 and accept it. We can't, because we will devalue our product, and we believe that the Premier League is of that stature where we need 3 million minimum. If we have done our budget, we have our numbers. Minimum, what we need is 3 million to assist the clubs, and then the clubs can get their own personal sponsors, to support them. But that doesn't mean that we're not working. We're still, working hard to try and get the money that we need to assist our clubs.
That is the marketing manager of the Ghana Football Association, Jamil Marabi, revealing that the FA will need $3 million a season for its topmost competition, the Ghana Premier League. And that is your sports for now. With me, Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. Head on to myjoyonline.com and read some more sports stories.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Showbiz here on Joy News today. Now, musicians Akwaboah and Afriyie are calling for fair treatment for all musicians here in Ghana. They believe that media sometimes tend to concentrate too much on a handful of their colleagues, leaving them out.
I think we are doing a great job together. I think the media, we the entertainers, we all work hand in hand, and I think so far not bad at all, but there's still room for improvement. I think it's what we need now as musicians in this very competitive industry is a fair play ground for everybody. You see, if we all have the same playing time on the field, I think given that chance, there are people who can do more than they are doing now. As I speak, I always say to some of my folks I talk to that if I were a cement block factory, I would say I'm probably producing maybe 10% of the average blocks I could have been producing if things were, conducive enough for not just me but other colleagues as well. So I think we are doing a great job, but like Bob Marley said, usually the vibe is not about the person singing, but what the person is saying. That is what we should look at more. So the future is bright, if you ask me.
I think, yes, it has a lot to do with the media. Because you're big boom boom cha and stuff, they're going to play and stuff, but then, hey, we barely understand what Midday says, what OWUSU says, but we still love their songs. And those people are going everywhere, touring everywhere. If we want to tour, music is not a joke. So we can't basically put our eyes on just the lyrics, just the beats and everything, and that's it. You get my point? We should be able to put the two together, the melody, the instrumentation, and the message together and sell it out there. That's only how somebody would want to listen to what we have. You get my point? And take us there, because really sometimes you guys, you talk about some unnecessary things that you don't have to give your ear to. You get my point? Than rather promoting.
Away from that, playwright Lateef Abubakar says theatre production in Ghana are yet to be fully accepted. Speaking on Joy FM's Showbiz A to Z, he explained that there's a section of the public who appreciate theatre, but his hope is that more people patronize the genre.
Well, theatre plays in Ghana extremely good, and then COVID came in, it was massive. We're expecting that this year's own will be better than the 1,005 audience base.
What do you think accounted for the drop after the initial successful takeoff? Could it be the patrons didn't like what they came to see?
No, the patrons actually liked what they came to see with regards to Romantic Nonsense.
So why didn't they come back?
Because when we did a repeated show, the place was full again.
So why didn't they come for the subsequent ones?
So it was the choice of partnership too as well. Okay. So when we went back, we realized that the choice of partnership, we actually did it with multimedia. And I had a conversation with Philip some time ago. The first one was multimedia. The second one, was it deceived or brainwashed to change partnership? And then we did, and it didn't work out well. But subsequently, when we came back to multimedia, it never worked out well again. And it was so difficult to explain why. And it was so difficult to explain why it never worked out again. We tried so many things. It takes time. It took so much energy, time, door-to-door campaigns. And so it's not just about the radio advert and TV advert that makes it happen. It's just that you realize that a lot of Ghanaians actually do not accept theatre.
That'll be all for Showbiz here on Joy News today. Over to you, Ernest.
Thank you very much, Becky, for the latest in the world of showbiz. And that's it for Joy News today. Many thanks for your company. When you log on to myjoyonline.com, you find a lot of stories, more details on what we've been bringing you today on myjoyonline.com. My name is Ernest Mena. Stay with us.